This is a recording made on December 19th, 2011 at the NYU Kimmel Center. It's Community Board 2 having a speak out about the issue of Washington Square Park, the musicians and performers and artists being summoned under the park rules.
So I just wanted to welcome everyone. Just about to get started here. Thank you very much for coming tonight. My name is Brad Roman. I'm the chair.
How are you, Commissioner?
Two of the Parks Committee chairs. Toby Bergen is the chair, and Rich Pescola, who is the vice chair. And tonight, the purpose of tonight is really to get the public, because this this issue arose at a rather inopportune time in terms of the holidays. We wanted to make sure that the public had an opportunity to weigh in some sort of structured setting on the issuance of summonses to musicians in Washington Square. I think there's probably no issue, and I know the Manhattan Borough Commissioner would agree, that this community regards with more seriousness than the stewardship of our public spaces. Because I think we have so little of them in Community Board 2. So we take this issue with such gravity that we wanted to arrange this session tonight to give you, the public, a chance to let us, Community Board 2 members, and Keenberger is here also as a Community Board 2 member. Doris Steether is on the Parks Committee, Landmarks Committee of Community Board 2, the chair. And we're also joined by a number of elected officials representatives, Sarah Malloy Good from Assemblymember Deborah Glick's office. Senator Duane's office is being represented by Robert. And I think other elected officials representatives are coming as well. But before we kick things off, Manhattan Borough Commissioner William Castro wanted to say a few words, and then we'll directly turn it over to you, because that's the point of it, is to hear from the public. So, Manhattan Borough Commissioner? Whichever you prefer. Yeah, this is fine. Yep.
Thank you very much, Fred. Good evening. My name is Bill Castro. I'm the Manhattan Borough Commissioner for New York City Parks. I'm here tonight because I want to clear up some misunderstandings about parks rules and how they apply to musicians and other performers in Washington Square Park. First, I do want to emphasize that the Parks Department is not trying to ban performers from this park or from any other parks. The same holds true for performers who solicit donations. So those who don't, those who do. Same thing. We value and want to encourage ad hoc music and other performances in Washington Square Park. We recognize that they are an important part of what makes this park so special. What we are trying to do is to keep Washington Square Park a vibrant and safe space that is enjoyable for all who visit, and a place where the public can choose to listen to musicians playing, watch a performance, sunbathe on a lawn or sit on a bench and read, and a place that is a destination for a variety of performers to share their talent. Last year the New York Times called Washington Square Park a, quote, an amazing kaleidoscope of humanity, and described a scene at night that included someone playing the musical Saw, people singing Amazing Grace, an accordion player in one corner of the park, and a guitar player in another. The atmosphere was certainly magical, and that is often the case in Washington Square. The parks rules seek to better regulate vending activity in city parks and to accommodate the broad range of park visitors so that limited park space can be available for various competing uses, including, but not limited to, active and passive recreation, expressive matter, and other vending, special events, demonstrations, and the viewing of historical monuments and public art exhibits. These rules are reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on expressive matter vending, which does include performances in exchange for donations. Again, I want to make it very, very clear that these rules do not prohibit performers from soliciting donations in Washington Square Park. In fact, there are numerous places where people can perform in the park while soliciting donations, such as the stage in Garibaldi Plaza, the area between the arch and the plaza, and in the Holly Plaza.
True.
Nonetheless, we are mindful of the concerns raised by some park patrons, and we are further reviewing the impact of these rules in Washington Square Park. Thank you.
Thank you. We're not going to. The point of tonight is to hear from you, and the Manhattan Borough Commissioner hopefully will stay for a little bit.
Yeah, why don't you listen to us?
We appreciate that.
Yes, I will.
Instead of
Thank you
running
very
out.
much, sir.
Thank you.
And again, we thank you for coming, for clarifying that. I sense that there might be some re-examination of the current policy, which is a good thing. I'm going to hand it over, though, to Toby Bergman, who's going to say a few words, and then we'll start the speak out.
Well, actually, I'm not going to say a few words. I'm just going to start speaking.
Okay.
Because I think that's what we're here for. So what we need is a list, though, right? The speakers list?
What I propose is folks just come up, line up one at a time. I know. There you go. Mr. Letterman is first. And you can either turn the microphone to address the public, or whichever you feel.
Address the public.
Yeah, so I would walk around. Probably better. Or, you know what? Maybe come up here. What do you think?
Even better.
Yeah, let's do that. So hand me that microphone there.
Nobody cares. Why don't we go over here?
Yeah, line up along the wall, right here. Thank you.
Unless people told us to do that, we were shocked.
There's no rules. There you go. Thank you.
My name is Robert Letterman. I'm the president of Artist. Thank you. That's Artist's response to illegal state tactics. And what Commissioner Castro just pretended to explain to you is exactly what our group is named about: illegal state tactics. First of all, Commissioner Castro just said about 1 minute ago, there are lots of places in Washington Square Park where you can play your guitar and perform and solicit for money. I was in Washington Square Park on Saturday. I measured every part of that park, and I've been vending on the street for 48 years, so I know about the vending laws. There is no place where you could legally do what he's describing, because what he's not mentioning is the fact that the 50 foot from a monument rule means that you got to be 50 feet from the fountain, 50 feet from the arch. You have to be 5 feet from every tree, every bench, every wall, every fence, every sign. There is no location. Now, that isn't my opinion. If you look at that leaflet I gave you, there's a link to a video where you can hear the actual PEP officers that are stationed in Washington Square Park every day admit to Joe Mangrove, who's here, the artist, that there is no location in Washington Square Park under these rules where you could legally perform, sing, play a guitar, or display art. But it goes way beyond Washington Square Park. These rules prohibit all these activities on grass. What that means is that if you add in the 50 feet from a monument, 5 feet from the trees, the benches, the signs, the walls, the fence, there is no spot in any New York City park under these rules where you could express your First Amendment rights. And in the very few locations, such as the South Plaza of Union Square Park, where there would be enough space, it's completely banned. In Union Square Park, if you're a musician and you want to play your guitar, you have to be in one of the artist medallion spots. So literally, if you went to every park in New York City, you would find that it's virtually a total ban on free expression. Now, I'm going to tell you how this happened to come about. These park rules were initially made to keep artists out of the parks. When I filed my lawsuit, it included very detailed affidavits with videos of performers, photographs, and so on, to show that after they threw the artists out, musicians were still performing in Union Square Park and elsewhere. So the Parks Department, right before their depositions, cooked up an internal memo, which we got leaked to us by the PEP and is now part of my lawsuit. And that memo described that they were going to now move all performers into medallion spots and enforce all the other rules against them. I'll close by saying this. Don't be tricked by the nonsense that the Parks Department is going to tell you about these rules. Their entire purpose is to throw independent artists, musicians, performers, public speakers, and political activists out of the parks to make room for more corporate vending, corporate product promotions, and for the friends of the mayor and Commissioner Benepe to do their thing in our public parks. I hope you'll stand up firmly against these park rules. Thank you very much.
As always.
You were next.
I'm Lori Moody. I'm a resident of 2 Fifth Avenue.
And you're obviously important enough to jump ahead of your neighbor.
The chair asked me to come, but I'd be happy to see
No,
you.
go ahead, please.
Okay. I find that the park's position on performers in Washington Square Park is both hypocritical and bad for business, brick and mortar business, that is. In Madison Square Park, Parks allows a large portion of the park to be given over to the Shake Shack, building, line, and tables. In Union Square Park, our glorious farmers market expands over the pavement on 2 sides of Union Square Park 4 days a week. And now the less than glorious holiday tchotchke market has taken over the pedestrian ways on the south side of the park for more than a month. In Washington Square Park, white-tinted fundraising events and movie productions take space from ordinary citizens from time to time, and an ice cream truck parked in front of Washington Square Arch between 2 no-standing signs and belched noise and pollution from its compressor every day this summer, in spite of phone calls to the police and others. While Parks lets organizations commandeer large areas of our parks, individual entrepreneurial artists are being chased from Union Square and performers from Washington Square Park. Yes, they are selling art or suggesting donations for their music or performance, but they can also delight the eye or ear. Their skill and creativity are gifts to the city and to the hordes of tourists who come to enjoy the show and spend their money in stores and restaurants. Thank you. Thank you.
If anybody would like to leave their statement with us, we appreciate that.
Okay.
Good job.
Thanks, Bruce. So I'm a Keenberger, and I'm speaking now for myself. I have lived close to the park for 47 years. I am one of the people who theoretically should be considered in this, and I've been in the park at least once a week all those years. So I added it all up, it's more than 2,000 times. And I cherish the musicians. I don't think that this rule has anything to do with my passive or active or otherwise joy. And therefore, I think the law, the problem was better before. I don't understand the law. It should be disappeared. That's all.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Doris Diesel. I live a half a block from the park or less, and I'm in the park practically every day, feeding the squirrels sometimes, but quite often listening to the musicians in the park and looking at the sand art and so forth. And these rules came up all of a sudden. There have been musicians and entertainers in the park since the 50s, when I first moved here. And I've been in the park, as I said, practically at least once a week ever since the 50s. And I've seen the musicians in the park and the other artists in the park, and there's never been any big problem with it. And all of a sudden, about 2 or 3 months ago, they started handing out tickets like mad. I mean, one guy got 12 tickets in 12 days. And for playing his piano in the park or for doing sand art in the park. And this is ridiculous. And the rule that they said, they keep changing what the interpretation of the rules. First they said that it was, they were blocking the passageways and people couldn't get through to the monuments and so forth. Then they decided that one wasn't going to work. So then they changed it to that they were soliciting donations in the park, and that was illegal because you can't ask for money. Actually, it doesn't say you can't ask for money, it just says you can't go around and collect money. And, there are artists in the park, not artists, but painters and so forth in the park, that sell their art in the park. But the musicians put the bucket out. And if somebody puts the money in the bucket, fine. If they don't, then they don't. And, they don't stop playing if put the money in the bucket. So anyway, I think that these rules are absolutely idiotic. And I think that the Parks Commission should be told that they're idiotic and that they should just throw these regulations out and go back to the way they had it for years in the park. Thank you.
That's it.
Thanks, Frank. Can you hear me?
Louder. Slightly.
Closer?
Yeah.
Okay. Most people here know me. For those of you that don't, my name is Susan Gorin, and I guess my claim to fame is something to do with squirrels. Some people might know that. But the reason I'm here tonight is my first image, despite my years, is 1957 on the east side of the park. It was now in Goddard Hall, on the little balcony over the entrance. It was my dad's office in 1957. In the 60s, Ed Koch, I believe, was historically the person that eliminated the harassment that was being put upon the street performers. This is a great tradition from Europe and all over the world. The people that are in the park performing are the people that keep our park safe. I know from years of living here, 45 years of living here, that every 4 or 5 years somebody kicks action into the park, and that when the performers are not there anymore, we are reduced to drug addicts, we are reduced to homeless, and I won't make, personal dissuasive, I'm not getting the right word, on that. I'm not against anybody in society. Everybody has a place. But most importantly, every day I'm in the park, and people come up to me, and they ask me, what happened to the wonderful performance space from the 70s and 80s? Why isn't it there anymore? It's what we love most about New York. The park is being cut away from this community inch by inch. And Mr. Castro, I in fact remember you looking me straight in the face and assuring me at a meeting that the performers would be welcome back. You even mentioned Tick and Tack. And I said, I'm interested in all of it personally, because when they're gone, nice people don't go there anymore. It turns into a three-card Monty scene with drug addicts in trouble. Now, you can say you have PEP officers now, but the PEP officers can't solve these problems. And by eliminating what people find joy in our park, you're killing it. The little bit of the village that's still left. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. Susan, by the way, it was also Koch that killed music in the park, right here.
I wasn't born at that point, so I'm quite sure about that.
The Washington Square concert series had invited, excuse me? Black Bobby. The Washington Square concert series had invited the great Johnny Colon, a Latin musician, to play one year in the park. Now, if we all remember the park back then, there was an elevated stage, and there was I was down on the floor taking photographs with, snapshots. I was harassed and beaten, and by a member of the board. which we all became friends later on when they saw that I was a safe black man. But what was also interesting is that this whole situation brings to mind something I heard since I was a kid. Anyone here ever hear of a Niemuller? Okay. Well, I can equate that to this particular situation. First, they came for the Negroes because they didn't want them. And now, obviously, judging from this audience, they're coming for white folks. Maybe equality has arrived. Mr. Castro, you're a prestigious individual, and I respect anybody that has reached the level of success that you have. But you're not that old. So 40 years ago, you were doing a few things yourself that could possibly involve you in Washington Square Park, dancing around and enjoying it. I want you to guarantee that you're going to consider this matter very seriously and perhaps continue an imperfect way of expressing art for poor artists. Oh, by the way, I want to thank all the artists that have come here, especially the fellow, the jazz musicians. I guess I've run out of gas. I thank you for the opportunity. Wait, 3.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Better. Community Forum. I want to thank Brad and Community Board 2 for holding this event. I've always thought community boards are crucial to democracy in New York City, and that's a target today. And you can do more than grant permits for outdoor cafes. You can do substantive issues and change policies by city agencies. And hopefully you'll do exactly that regarding the park's proposed regulations. I'm here today to support expressive activity in New York City parks. I'm here tonight to oppose unnecessary restrictions on expressive activities in our parks. Historically, our courts have repeatedly said that public parks are quintessential public forums that are entitled to First Amendment protections. The United States Supreme Court, in a case from New York City in 1989, Ward versus Rock Against Racism, held that as a form of expression and communication, music is protected under the First Amendment. Washington Square Park, for more than a century, has been one of the cultural spaces in this city. I remember first visiting this great space in 1965 as a first-year law student right down the block here at NYU. It was an eye-opening experience for new ideas, thoughts, expression, performers that as a 21-year-old kid from Brooklyn, I had never before experienced. Those experiences broadened my horizons and helped me be who I am today. So tonight, I'm here also to make sure that other 21-year-olds are not denied these experiences. On a broader scale, I'm also here tonight because I'm greatly concerned at the apparent trend of the Bloomberg administration's increased restrictions on expressive activity in our public spaces. From Zuccotti Park, I'm not used to applause, I usually get criticism, but thank you very, very much. From Zuccotti Park to Central Park, to Lincoln Square Plaza, to Washington Square Park now, it appears that expressive activity is a target. And I say today to Community Board 2, be part of a movement that stops this and stops it now. The policy considerations and the legal basis surrounding vendor expressive matters being applied right across the street in Washington Square Park, Mr. Castro, must be rethought. At a minimum, the scope of its applicability and enforcement must be narrow. Otherwise, there'll probably have to be, in addition to Robert's lawsuit, other litigation on these issues, and no one really wants that. I looked at the dictionary the other day and defines vendor as, quote, one who vends or sells. Seller. These street performers are not vendors. Street performers need to be protected. Expressive activity needs to be respected and protected. And hopefully, that's exactly what we'll do. One other point, I have 18 seconds. It is really, really exciting and good to hear this community's expression so far. You are on target, you are articulate, and do not be persuaded by naysayers who say that you can't change City Hall. Sometimes you can fight City Hall, and sometimes we actually win. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Natalie Albert, and I live a block away from the park, and I've been here about 40 years. And I just jotted a couple of quick notes because I want to give my personal view of how this has impacted me as a long-term resident. First of all, the city seems to have created a problem that never existed. I don't know what problem they're resolving, because there never was a problem in the first place. And the solution, of course, is drastic and wrong. This new policy has destroyed the vibrancy of the park. I have been spending a lot of time there over this summer and into this current period, as I have over the years. But I would sit there, I would listen to the music. There was people were happy, people were smiling, people enjoyed themselves, people congregated, people communicated with each other. I felt very safe. I would sit there and read my book. I would listen to music. I'd move to another seat. I'd listen to some other music, watch a show. Lately, since the new policy is in place, when I've gone there and I've sat there, first of all, the park is empty. There's a very transient feeling. And as I look at the people buzzing through the park at all the angles, it appeared to me that it looked like the floor in the main room at Grand Central Station, but without the beautiful arch ceiling overhead. I felt much less safe sitting there than I ever did when the park was filled with tourists and residents and people interacting with each other and listening to wonderful music and appreciating great art and artists. This is a wrong-headed policy. I remember the days of Washington Square Park when residents used to walk a block away around the park. It was such a dangerous place that you didn't want to be anywhere near it. Those days are coming back because of this policy if it's not immediately changed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go. Hi everyone, my name is Colin Huggins. I'm the big winner on getting tickets. If I ended up having to pay these tickets, the minimum amount I'd have to pay would be a little over $2,000 over about a 6-week period, and which is well over what I receive in donations in the 6-week period. Pertaining particularly to this, I just have to say that I don't want to say too much about the difference between musicians and vending art because I actually really do stand strongly with Robert. Where did Robert live?
Still here.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I get a little concerned that too much of this is saying musicians good, art is good, and I really prefer not to think of it this way, and I prefer not to.
You could just get on the line.
Or sit down and say we're not art vendors. Now, even though this is true, we just Phil and myself and
so I can post this one on my building.
We could set out something for questions. We very rarely even ask for donations. I often will go out and not even speak the whole time that I'm out there. Sometimes people criticize me for that. I'm sorry, I'll try to talk more. But at any rate, in the grand scheme of things, just learning to be a street performer is learning. It's not even. I don't even really like the phrase street performer because I'm really just going out and playing music, and that's just what this is. It's going out into a public place and creating in a way that is safe, in a way that can be removed easily and not create any kind of nuisance in the space. And we're very proud of this, and we really enjoy it, and we enjoy the happiness that it brings others. And just the last thing I'll say is that, since I've done this, I brought so much joy to people, and it really has made me so happy, and it's so humbling to see all the people gathered behind me. It's been a long time that I've spent learning how to really go out in the world and create things and do it in a positive way. And one time I had a student who was working on a Chopin etude, and they were performing it, and they were so nervous. And I said, well, you think you're nervous just performing the Chopin etude up here? Wait till you're performing it out in the public, and not only do you have to worry about making mistakes, you also have to worry about people chasing after you and giving you tickets all the time. At any rate, thank you so much for supporting us, and we really appreciate it. And I hope this is all through.
Great, I like listening to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Mangrove, and I make sand paintings out in Washington Square, as well as Union Square, Army Circle, and sometimes other places around the city. I really want to speak to the idea of I've been an artist all my life, and it wasn't until I moved to New York City and the artists were free to do these things in the street. New York is almost unique in a way that there is a lot of freedom, and it really is discouraging living anywhere else in the country because freedoms are not there. And it's like the freedom that this has given me is it's propelled my career to be able to make art, share it with people, make art daily, get kids involved, get teenagers involved that find a way and inspiration from what I'm doing. And I'd like to speak also to what's happened since these rules have come back, is people aren't playing underneath the arch anymore. The arch is acoustically awesome for musicians, and it's dead now. And then there's this whole month of October where it was all barricaded, the fountain was barricaded, and the parks militarized. So you're killing the parks in a sense by militarizing it, by putting these rules, running off artists. And the international busker scene comes to New York to play, and then they run into a PEP officer, and they don't come back. And so it's been killing this art for quite the past few months. It's been really bad, and the park's been more vacant as a result.
That's right.
But I think what Robert's done over the last 20 years to free up the art space and the public space. And the crackdown that's happened in the past few months is just awful. So it's freedom is the most important thing we have in this country, and if you don't have that, you don't have a country. So, the importance of freedom and to be able to develop your skill on the street, no matter what level you're playing at, if you're a professional, if you're an amateur, just to be able to get out there there's some musicians, a little kid that plays in the subway, he's 8 or 10 years old. He's breaking his chops, every day, playing music. And those are the kids that learn. Kids learn from me, pouring the sand, they're interested, they want to touch the sand. They learn from Colin, they learn from all the musicians and singers.
I taught that little kid, actually.
Yeah. So, it's such a service to the community in so many ways that you don't even see. That, teenagers are I'm a graffiti artist. And it's and I speak to them, and it's this is a way you can make art, and you're not going to get arrested for destroying someone's property. This is the way to do it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Croft. I'm president of New York City Park Advocates. I'd like to thank Fred. I'd like to thank Brad and this community board for thinking this issue is so important. The other side of me thinks it's a sad night when we all have to come out to have a meeting about buskers, about artists performing a very vital service to New York City. And the fact that this is happening in Washington Square Park is really pretty astonishing. Unfortunately, to add, I mean, we feel very strongly, we agree with what everyone's been saying here. Clearly, these guys are not vendors. But it's also important to note that these rules, so-called, are being applied arbitrarily. When you do go up to a Union Square Park, which is the very next park, as I'm sure has been mentioned, the city is making millions of dollars from the commercial exploitation of its parks. But when artists want to come out and not only entertain us, but bring life to parks, for some reason, Mayor Bloomberg thinks that those people should be punished. And that's outrageous. And I'm very happy that not only this community is standing up for itself, but other communities are starting to understand this. Working with Norm Siegel this last summer, the mayor was trying to crack down on the musicians in Central Park under Bethesda Fountain. Again, just absolutely ridiculous. And when you tell people these stories, they say, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Yes. That's why it's super important that we all stick up and we demand accountability from our elected officials. And we ask you guys to come together and join us in helping to fight this. And again, if there are people who have been given some summonses, please speak to myself or to Norman, and hopefully we will try to work this out together. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Matt Plummer. I'm a trombone player. I lived in New York for only about 4 years. I moved here to become part of the music scene here, and I'm always amazed at how many incredible artists are in this city, and a huge part of that is the parks. And I haven't played in Washington Square Park. I've played a lot in Central Park. I've played in brass bands playing there. I've done wedding proposals. I've played in jazz trios. And I've had nothing but positive feedback and smiling faces. And it's not a major part of my income, but I have a lot of friends who play daily or weekly in the parks, and they're just getting harassed all the time and getting tickets. I think it's really terrible. I'm a member of Local 802, the Musicians Union. I'm definitely going to speak to them about getting involved with this campaign. I'd also just like to mention, I'm also involved with Occupy Wall Street. I'm a member of I'm just here as a member, but I'm a member of the Arts and Culture Committee, also the Arts and Labor. And there's a lot of people there that are performing as political expression. There's a theater troupe started out as an event called Occupy Broadway. And, several people have been arrested for performing in street theater troupes, not doing anything as far as civil disobedience, just performing on the street with no amplification. So I think this is a serious problem just in regards to playing music and also political expression. Thank you.
I just want to tell people that in addition to speaking out here, there's also you can send your comments to Washington Square Park, speakout@gmail.com.
Hi, my name is Michael David. I'm Colin's partner, musical partner. Yeah, because rumors get started, you know. Yes, exactly. I am lucky enough not to make most of my living outside. I make most of my living inside as an artist. And however, what the park brings is something so special and so historically important. I happened by an article in the Brooklyn Eagle that talked about the musicians in the park and the burgeoning, quote-unquote, guitarist scene, and that was dated September 17th, 1959. It's been happening for years. It is one of the main reasons that people come to Washington Square Park. It is a safe place for kids, and a police person who shall remain nameless said to me, and he's right. He says, "I love when you guys play because it's like crowd control. We know where everybody is when you guys are playing." To those kids who want to be safe, and those 4 couples that have gotten married who the proposals happened at our shows, as one guy said, "I brought her here because I knew that if I asked her here while you guys were playing, she would say yes." And she did, and now they're having children. Not because of Colin and I, but because of them. But it's really important, and this is actually a happy thing in a sense, because I get to see the faces of people who care about the park and who care about New York City. This is not just a busker issue. It's not just an artist issue. It's a New York City issue. This is a part of a fight for the soul of this city and what this city has been, what it is, and what it's going to be in the future. So I say honor to all of you all, and I hope we can win this fight. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ryo Sasaki. I'm a jazz trumpet player. I'm right at I don't know anything about those technical terms. The English is not my first language. So I'd like to speak just a little bit myself. I came here from Japan, all the way from Japan, about 4 years ago, and my friend took me up playing the park. So at the time, I didn't have any job, any place to play, and I started playing the park regularly because it's kind of nice way to some money. It's not big money, but enough money to pay my rent and the bills. So I started doing it, and suddenly this year I've been doing it for 3 years. Suddenly, this season, end of this season, people talking about, hey, you cannot do this, and if you do this, I give you a ticket. So I got a couple of tickets. One is unnecessary noise, and which was dismissed, and one is unlawful spending. And I don't understand, but since the park, to me, is really educational learning process to me. It's just seeing all the kids and seeing all those people smiling, and I learned how to play music in school, but I never learned how to entertain or how to communicate with people. Without pride, I never learned those skills. And I think that's all. And thank you for supporting art, and thank you for New York. And I think the last word, the reason I came to New York because of art, and not the money. It's not the money I want to make. It's just art thing, the whole art thing that I believe that makes New York special. Thank you.
Right on. Yeah.
I got it. Oh, you got it?
Hey everyone, I'm Ken Kidd. I am not prepared to talk to you all tonight. I just decided to come here because I heard about this yesterday. Like you all, there are probably four places that I could be right now. But when I found out about this was where I knew I had to be. I live on Washington Place. I consider Washington Square to be my front yard. And I am in there. I have a little dog. I'm in there at least twice a day, every day. And I'm also fortunate enough to have spent my very first night in New York City a half a lifetime ago, right on Sullivan Street, and coming into Washington Square Park and listening to the music and looking at the artists and realizing that I was in the right place. This was where I needed to be. I had to get away from Virginia because this was a place that I could be myself and have people share with me. Because this is about sharing. I mean, people share in that park. They share their talents. They share their gifts. We share experiences. And the idea that these experiences are going to be quieted down and not there for us, I just think we need to really think about that. And I've heard people talk about money, and it just seems like a negligible and negligent amount of money that the city might be able to collect from these tickets. And it does seem arbitrary to me that some people will get busted and others won't. I don't know how much and I don't like the term buskers because it has sort of a negative thing. There are people performing, and there are people performing for me and for my friends and for my neighbors and for my dog. And I just have to say that I think this is a really wrong, long-lasting decision that we really need to be thoughtful about. Like I said, I'm not prepared except to say that I want to take on this fight because it just really has a lot to do with what I think the village is, was, and could and should be. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Mitchell Cohn. I'm from the Brooklyn Greens, and I live down near Coney Island, and I'm here to speak in favor of the park rules and regulations. I live down near the ocean, but I've been coming twice a week for years to Washington Square Park to enjoy the peace and quiet there, and to admire, I guess, the two statues in the park. The statue for Garibaldi and the other for Alexander Holly, who was a robber baron. And I think it's fitting that Parks Department chooses him as an icon. And so do thousands of tourists. I mean, we all know that's why everybody comes to the park, to check out the statues. And I'm sure the Parks Department has taken many surveys to see why people come to the park, and they found that that's why they've come. Well, we don't want to have our meditation on Garibaldi and Holly constantly disrupted by these rude musicians who provide an irritating undercurrent to the natural rhythms of the jackhammers and the lead side. So, speaking of the statue to Alexander Holly, perhaps you would join me in this Christmas carol for him. Deck the park with boughs to holly, la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Band of Haywood band this carol, fa la 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 la. We also know that it's the musicians who are killing all the trees around the fountain. Right. That was moved out of the center of the park and is no longer in the center of the park. And this board allowed it to happen. So I was thinking about why the 5-foot rule, why the 5-foot no music rule around the benches and so forth. Then I figured if you do pi r squared, right? I just went to Stuyvesant and I know a little math, remembering it. You take the area around it and you multiply it out by pi and square the radius. It comes out to 78.54 square feet exactly around every single point on every bench, which comes almost close to covering the entire park as no music rule. I think there might be a little section that we have to figure out where that is. We have to do the vector analysis on that. So doing the multiplying by pi and squaring the radius gives a new meaning to what we call occupy. So I'd like to thank everybody, and as agreed, I'd like to just make sure all the tickets being given to the performers are made on recycled paper and use non-GMO soy-based ink. Thank you.
Nice job. That was great.
Hi, I'm Susan Cohn, and I'm jealous of the people who are telling me that you live on the block of the park, a block away. I don't have it too bad. I live 4 blocks away, and I've been here 30 years, over 30, and I'm in the park on average at least twice a week. and I was probably there more when there was more music happening. I want to, the man 2 speakers ago, I'm sorry I didn't catch his name, but I want to strongly agree with him and disagree. I agree that to me, this park is my backyard. We live in Manhattan. We need green space, and it's not like people who have, but anyway, to us, it's more special than it is to a lot of other people, and I second that. I disagree about his comment about buskers. To me, buskers is not at all a negative thing. I mean, it's a great thing, and I think it's just more used in Europe, the term, than it's used here, and we're not really used to it, but I'm happy to have buskers. I'm embarrassed with what goes on in the park. I listen to the music, but I also really go there to meet people and just talk to people. I love talking to a lot of the foreigners who are coming through, and they come through for the music. I had 2 situations this summer where I had to apologize for my city. There was a group that came in from New Orleans. They were just playing, they just doing their thing, and they got one of the huge tickets. That wasn't a ticket for this. That was a ticket for having more than 10 people. That was last year's problem. First, they said you couldn't have more than 10 audience members there, and they were ticketing people if you were good enough to get at least 10 people listening to you. Then they realized, no, it's having 10 or more people listening, play, right. So then, a month later, there was a group that had come over here from Germany. They were playing this strange combination of instruments, and there were about 25, 30 of them. There were dozens of us watching, listening, having a wonderful time, and luckily for them, they were ready to stop anyway when the PEP officers came over, started to give them a ticket, and were talked out of it by some of us. But this is not what the park is about.
Hello. Thank you.
Good, how you doing?
Good evening, my name is Lee Schwartz. I've been a member of the community for over 40 years. I'd like to thank CB2 for holding this meeting. This is an extension of the park, everyone allowed to express themselves, and it feels good. I'm one of your resident poets. I'd like to read something. I remember the night that Lenin died. We were all wounded and wandering in the dark, making shadows on the streets, following the sounds of music wafting in the air, taking us to the circle under the trees that was Washington Square Park. Everyone gathered to sing Imagine and Let It Be and the entire pantheon of Beatles songs. A place to grieve and cry, to raise our voices in community for a loss we needed to express. Out loud in unison, what would I have done without that freedom to be a chorus of love?
Hi, my name is Emily Singer. I'm a 20-year-old student at Parsons New School for Design. I really was not expecting to come speak to you guys, so I'm a little nervous, so please bear with me. I just completed a 4-month research paper on social polarization, Washington Square Park, and the chess players. Now, I'm going to put aside the chess players because this is a little bit bigger than that. And what I have seen since 1381 until right now is social polarization, which is the segregation of communities based on their affluence or if just, they don't like them. This has been one of the most brattiest histories I could ever say I've seen. This is really awful. When you take away art and you take away musicians, you take away a chance for people to interact with others. Diversity is so needed amongst us, for everyone. I mean, this will really harm our future generations. It leads to ignorance of other people, and I just really hope that this stops.
Hi, my name is Mary Johnson.
What's important about Washington Square Park? Just about everything is important about Washington Square Park. But I expected tonight to come to a debate, and instead it's a love-in. I think we're all of the same mind. And Mr. Castro, I hope you're really listening. This is such an important park and so important to all of our lives. I feel very happy tonight to be here to hear and talk with the musicians and the artists who make our lives so happy in the park. And I think that Washington Square Park has a lot of different meanings to a lot of us. But it's our park. We love it. We like it the way it is. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Swan. I write the Washington Square Park blogs. I've been following what's going on with the park for like almost 4 years. And what everybody said, I can't really top because you all have said, very eloquent and wonderful things and expressed what so much of the park is clearly about and the history of the park and what makes it so special and why people come there. We all get that. Just a few things that I missed the very beginning, but I totally agreed with what Colin said about how it's not about the vendors because I support them, but if you read the Parks Department's own document, it says that these rules apply to anyone selling art, photography, reading material, or sculpture, whether original or mass-produced. So they're basically going against their very own rules. So, that's an issue to begin with, on top of all the other issues. But one other thing I'd just like to mention is that I'm disappointed in the community board's oversight of this park in general, and I think that's really important to point out. It's great that they're holding this, but there are so many other issues that need attention, and I'm sure a lot of you know about it. Certainly of the park plan in general, it's in the middle of Phase 2. Phase 2 is so overdue, but there's been no attention to it by the community board. It's like Norman Siegel said, there's so much more the community board can do other than approving cafe permits. The community board, according to the Gerson-Quinn agreement, which is what's supposed to be, the oversight document of this redesign of the park, is supposed to be attending to the details of the park's redesign, and that has just fallen completely by the wayside. Secondly, why isn't Phase 2 finished? It is so beyond schedule. Shouldn't we at least be holding some kind of hearing to find out why? There's no attention to this. The budget has more than doubled. Is that okay? It's now at $35 million. It was approved at $16 million. Like Mitchell mentioned, trees have been dying repeatedly. They're now trying the fourth round of these trees around the fountain. If the community board doesn't address this, who does? I don't know. I try to write about this on my blog, but it needs attention by our city council, and our community board. That would be the next level of government that would be paying attention to this. And I'd also just like to say that this is part of the Parks Department is trying to change the general usage of the park. And so putting these rules in place is part of that plan. They thought they could do a lot more changing the design of the park, and they're probably unhappy that people are still performing and using the park in this manner. And so now they put these rules in place, and that's why we're all here to protest that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Isaac Gutt. I play music at the Wolfgang J Project.
What's your name?
So, I'm Isaac Gutt. I play music with the Wolfgang J Project. You have a plot of paved cement with some benches, some small patches of grass, an arc, a few statues, and a fountain that usually isn't in use. What makes this plot different? Why do people choose to go out of their way to visit this plot of mostly cement? What makes it different than a plot of cement, say, in New Jersey or anywhere else? what we love about New York. It's the culture. I grew up in Brooklyn, and as a young teen, I used to travel across the bridge to Washington Square Park to watch the music, to just be part of the life that was in the air. There's no other place that I can go to be exposed to so much culture, just so many different kinds of music. And now, as an adult, as a musician and a performer, I come to Washington Square Park to practice and perform music that was no doubt influenced by what I've seen there growing up. There's no place that I've gone that I can go that I find a more enthusiastic audience. And I think that musicians and artists go where there's an audience. If there was no audience, people wouldn't show. The musicians wouldn't show. That should speak for itself. The atmosphere in the park can be so wonderful sometimes. And why would any good person try to take that away?
Hello? Yeah? Okay. Hi, my name's Harvey Osgood. I hang out in the park as much as I can. And so I came here today because I sort of promised myself and a lot of people that I would take this opportunity to speak out on my feelings. That's what I do. I express my feelings through my movement and my vocalization. Sometimes I make clicking sounds. But what I do best of all is just enjoy my life out there. This is a very, very cruel punishment that somebody is trying to inflict upon myself, my friends, and so many others. It's unnecessarily cruel to deprive people of the opportunity to express themselves, to share their life with music and art and joyously just experience life. This policy is an anti-life policy. It's cruel and it's unnecessary. I do want to thank everybody who came out here to show their support, and you members of the board. You are hearing our cry, and I know that you'll take some kind of action. Hopefully, it will have its effect. This has been done with an anti-humanistic attitude. I don't know what evil motives there are, and I really don't care. I won't speculate. I just know it's hurting me. It's hurting others. There are so many people out here who are feeling great pain, and they can't just get up and speak openly because they're a little shy. And I'm hopefully trying to express their feelings also, and that's why I came here. I don't have much else to add. The preposterous nature of these rules and speculation on where it can lead to, all of these things we can imagine. But I just want to say again, Doris, thanks for doing what you do all the time here. And thank you guys. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roxana Walitsky. I'm a graduate student here at NYU, and I'm an opera singer. I'm one half of the group Opera Under the Arch with Katie Cat. We started singing in Washington Square Park this past summer. It was my first experience busking ever. I mean, she'd done it before, and she got me into it. And we tried a couple of locations in the park before somebody pointed us in the direction of the arch and said there's really great acoustics there. And what we found in the other locations was that, I mean, you don't sing opera outside for a reason. You need acoustic feedback for it to work, and that's exactly what the arch gave us. It was a beautiful place to sing. You would get groups of tourists and people who remembered opera from their childhood but hadn't heard it in forever, who would tell stories about the arias that we were singing, and it was such a positive environment to sing in. Studying music is really not intense because all we do in school is we sing for colleagues and teachers who help us by criticizing our technique and, nitpick every little thing that we do, and singing for people outdoors who would just stop and smile was so amazing. I really want the park back. Thank you.
My name is Katie Cat, and I'm the other half of Opera Under the Arch. I have been busking since I was a teenager. I learned really, really quickly that if I really wanted to do this, I needed to do it. So that's what I just started doing. I started doing it before I even knew what it was called. I'm not only just a performer. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a musician. I am a teacher. I'm an adjunct professor here at NYU of Voice. And I have scratched my way from the very bottom of everything to get to where I am now. You have to start somewhere. And I feel like for the artists in the park, that's where you're starting. The whole, ingenue coming to New York to trying to make it on Broadway, you have to start somewhere. And Roxana touched on the acoustic properties of the arch. That's definitely adding to that beauty of that monument, I think. But, yeah, I debated doing this, but I think I'm going to. I have one last thing to say in Italian.
Can you sing it?
Yes, great.
Give us a song.
Can you translate?
We knew we were going to get a show and everything.
That's me, K-A-T-I-E.
Hello, my name is Jen Kramer, and I'm an artist and an educator. I'm sorry. I think I just want to say, if you think back in history to humans, when has there not been art? When in the history of our studies has there not been culture? And I think it's so important to keep that free and to keep that open to the public. And I hope it's really great to see all of you coming out to support this park. I hope you realize that it is citywide and that it is actually nationwide, having taught in public schools in Detroit, in the downtown area, having taught in Kansas City, having taught in Louisiana, having taught throughout the country. Culture and music and art is so important.
Hi, my name is Jed Schwartz, and I live on Bleecker and Mercer Street. I've been living there for 22 years and coming to Washington Square Park and enjoying it. I just want to share an experience that I had in the park that I think I will always remember, and I think it's related. And this was a couple of days after 9/11 when my wife Lee and I, like all of us, were upset and in need of some healing and some meaning to go back to life. And so we just naturally walked over to Washington Square Park one night, just sort of intuitively expecting warmth, humanity, community, and definitely music. And that's exactly what we found. We didn't have to think about it. We didn't have to look far. We didn't have to look a certain number of feet from a statue or whatever. We just walked into the park, and there were, of course, as you would expect, many other people doing the same thing. We sat down with some people. Somebody had a guitar. Somebody was playing music. And it was beautiful, and it was healing. And somebody else went and got a bunch of pizzas and just handed out the pizzas. And this is the kind of thing that you would expect to happen in Washington Square Park, to bring in the kind of culture and community and music that people are deeply in need of, and just show up and it's there. So I certainly hope that we don't lose that.
My name is Robert Zimmerman. I'm about 22. I came from Minneapolis just about 2 weeks ago with a guitar and a banjo. Some people are saying I should call myself Bob something, Dylan or something like that. But I arrived and I set up, played some of my great songs, and then the cops surrounded me. I thought, well, I heard about the legend of Washington Square Park. I'm getting out of this town and going back to Minneapolis. Maybe Europe is better for me. Sorry.
That's it?
I think so.
Well,
That's more than it.
I think we've heard each other. I think we've definitely heard. I know that Commissioner Castro stayed for most of it. I don't think he could have buffered. And I hope that, it's difficult when you're part of an organization to take these things back and to manage up and to tell your boss that you're making a mistake and something else has to happen. I think personally, and the board does have a policy, does have a position against the park rules that this is part of, although we didn't know this part of it existed at the time we passed our resolution. We passed our resolution, I guess, back in April. Robert was certainly a big part of explaining to us what was wrong with it at the time. And so I think that what's really important is that the Parks Department hear this continually. We're going to have a Parks Committee meeting. I think it's now scheduled for the 14th, for January 14th. After which we probably will pass a resolution at this meeting is to speak out. Of course, we don't. So I hope to see people there as well. And I hope that we're able to persuade the Parks Department not just to change their enforcement policy, but to change the rule that enforcement policy is part of. Because while, the difference, I think, is that, from a rights standpoint and from an art standpoint, the sale of art and the busking is the same issue. But from an experience of the park issue, the music brings so much to the experience of the park that people selling their art doesn't bring. So what I think is important here is that we use the numbers that will come out for the music issue, because it's so dear to them in terms of their experience in the park, and to combine that back to the issue of the sale of art.
Will there be a written transcript of this meeting?
Yes, we recorded it, and we'll try to get it transcribed.
I didn't interrupt you, but I think that when you said take it back,
Yep.
before, I was wondering how you did it.
And also that we can still email you.
Yes, thank you very much. Washington Square Park, what was it? Washington Square Park Speakout at google.com. Gmail.com.
Washington Square Park Speakout.
Park?
Washington Square Park Speakout.
Washington Square Park Speakout at gmail.com.
Yep.
So So send things in and encourage others to send things in. And come to the Parks Committee meeting. And, it's January 14th. I don't know where it is yet, Bob. Do we have a meeting? That's a Saturday. It's not January 14th.
What about
January
sending
9th?
things to
It was moved,
Castro or Benefit?
It's on your CB2 calendar.
Will there be such a meeting for those in opposition to our points of view? Because it is often interesting to hear what...
Clearly, this is not just to speak out for people who are against the regulations, speak out for everybody. I guess what I could do is ask it this way, if everybody who is against this enforcement policy wants to just raise their hands, then we just kind of have a sense of what the...
I don't guess any
Every hand.
Anybody for it?
Okay, thanks. I'm not, if people who are actually for it want to speak up, I really encourage them to do it. I want to promise that we will listen politely as well.
From what I said, for the last 40 years, the police would always come under the arch and say, the people that live around here don't want it. So it's interesting to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, the arbitrary
There were three in the email. There were 2 or 3 comments that were actually supportive of the Parks Department.
Interesting to get Ed Koch in too, because he played both sides. What did he say? Flip flop.
He's invited.
So just to wrap up, all of your comments have been recorded. We really appreciate it. We'll memorialize those in some fashion. So you don't have to appear again before in our January meeting of the Parks Department, although we welcome you to do so, depending on your schedule. I personally just want to thank everyone for the passion and the eloquence, which I frankly I was blown away by. So I really appreciate that. It's enlightened me personally to the importance of this issue. I knew it was significant. I didn't know how significant. So thank you so much. And the community board hears you. We'll see you in January, and we'll continue to have discussions with the park department. I think we see an opening in the door. The Manhattan Borough Commissioner said they are reevaluating their policy. I take that as a good sign, but we need to keep the pressure on in order to make this happen. So thank you very much.
Stick around. I want to talk to you unless you're in a hurry.